Welcome to this ordinary meeting of Council, the 26th of July 2021. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are on here today, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to their elders, both past, present and emerging. I inform all those in attendance at this meeting that the meeting is being webcast, and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements concerning any person, councillor or employee, and refrain from discussing those matters subject to closed council proceedings as indicated in clause 14.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice. I notice that all councillors are present, so there's no apologies. Declarations of interest?
Yes, Mayor Thompson. Portland Tidy Towns, please. I think it's anyway, it's one of the first items, and the proposed rural land changes as well, thank you. Non-pecuniary interest, less than significance, and I'll be staying in the chambers.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. A confirmation of minutes?
Happy to move.
Moved Councillor Ring, seconded Councillor McAndrew. I'll put that. Those in favour? Councillor Statham?
I wasn't here.
Oh.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, I'd like to
I've got two as well.
I'd like to acknowledge and congratulate young Lockie Sharp for being selected in the Australian hockey team in the current Olympics.
I'd like to acknowledge Campbell Turnbull, who also happens to be my aunt. 48 years in the health district, 26 years as a registered nurse and midwife, 23 years community midwife and lactation consultant. She was often called the baby whisperer, and I personally, during my raising my own children, she was always there for me as well. Yes, I'd also like to acknowledge the local police force who are out and about and doing the job to the best of their ability. Let's hope that the health emergency doesn't get any worse than what it is.
Mayor Thompson, yes, Lockie Sharp is certainly a local hero that needs to be congratulated. A wonderful role model for our local sporting people. We're all very proud of him. Over the last couple of weeks, there's been several functions that I've attended. Yet actually, there's been quite a few cancellations because of COVID. But the Wallerawang Lidsdale Yulefest luncheon this week was wonderful. The community cinema Christmas in July weekend went off just fantastic. The Capity Progress Association Christmas in July markets were a wonderful success considering.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could, a point of order, is this commemoration and acknowledgement, or is it outlining what a council has been doing?
I think Councillor McAndrew was pretty right, Councillor
They've
Statham.
never been stopped before. They're functions that have been on that are charities in our local community. I'm just making the community aware of them. I've never been asked to stop this before. How do you know?
Well, I take on board that you can make the announcements, Councillor, but this business of I've been here and I've been there, I don't think goes too well. So
no worries at all.
Make the announcement
here that I haven't attended, so I'll mention them. Thank you.
Mayor Thompson, if I could ask a question of clarification. I did look at the original council resolution in relation to this. And the original council resolution was basically to commemorate.
Would you please put your mask on, Councillor Ring? Thank you.
You're welcome. The original commemoration was purely to be about people who are deceased and contributed in our community. And quite frankly, I'd prefer if you could read that out at the next council meeting and that all councillors adhere to it. It's not used for political purposes, grandstanding. It's purely used for the purpose it was intended, and that is to recognise people who have passed in our community and have contributed greatly to our community as unsung heroes.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Statham.
Well, Councillor Ring, if he's able to propose this now, I'd like to propose that we completely delete these announcements, because how can we possibly cater for every family in our local government area that loses a loved one? Some of us know more than other people, but everyone's life is very equal. There is nobody in this community that is better known than anybody else. Everyone's life is valuable. I know of several people that have been missed out over the last 5 years, and it's a disgrace. So we either have a platform where we know we get a report from the funeral directors, which is absolutely crazy, or we're allowed to say our own commemorations, but what about for all those people that are in aged care that have family in our areas that we don't hear of?
I'll get management to have another look at the commemorations and announcements and come up with because I do think it's getting out of hand, to be truthful myself.
So we cannot now, just for confirmation, so I know that I can tell people, they've asked me to a couple of things, so I'm not allowed to say any more, any events that have been on that have been successful for their organisation.
No, Mayor, point of order again.
Yeah.
This is not the time to ask those questions. I think what Councillor Ring put forward, it would be a good idea if we go back and revisit when this was first put into the agenda, so we can remind all of us, including myself, remind all of us about what it was put there for and how it should be dealt with in these chambers.
Yeah, I fully agree. Fully agree. Good.
I have one, Mr. Mayor, if you've got time.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah. So on the 16th of July, it marked the end of an era of Jill Marjoram working at the in the public health. She'd worked there for 46 years. She put her heart and soul into the job, both as a nurse and as an administrator, and a role as a general manager at Lithgow and Portland. It was a challenge for her at times, but she always strived to do her best, and she helped the citizens of Lithgow and the district. So I'd like to commemorate Jill Marjoram on her wonderful and stellar career.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. I have a mayoral minute to cover. I'll have a mayoral minute to cover that in a moment.
I don't think he's read his business paper, Mr. Mayor.
Well, this didn't come through in the business paper. It came through as a late.
It was set out though. It was on the line.
Public forum. Have we got any public forum?
Mr. Mayor, I understand we have one submission, don't we? Somebody arranged to read that out.
I was told there was no public forum late this afternoon.
Yeah, no, I was confused as well. My understanding there's no public forum. It's not available. And now I know that the person sitting there is our staff, then yeah, I understand better myself.
We have one statement to read out. Mr. Muir will read that out.
The actual statements have actually been sent through to councillors today. They were asked to be tabled by the two parties, and they're in relation to the development application at South Barnfield. And one of those submissions which was provided today was by the proponent, and one was by an objector. So that they've both asked for those to be tabled tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Muir. Are they long in most probably, I think you should read them out.
Okay. The first submission was by the applicant for the proposal tonight, and that's Mr. Moody, and his submission is as follows. Reference is made to the above application in regards to the council meeting scheduled for Monday, 26 July 2021. A request to address council is formally made to Lithgow Council on behalf of Dean Moody, as he would not be able to attend due to the current COVID restrictions. Please find below a summary for the council meeting to be noted accordingly. The application was submitted to council on the 10th of March 2021. Council have notified me, Dean Moody, on 3 separate occasions, being 21 April, 5 May and 2 June, regarding the proposal being revised and matters to be addressed. I, Dean Moody, have addressed each matter raised by council and has endeavoured to provide best possible outcome to address issues raised by the objector. Unfortunately, it is not always to make the objector happy with the outcome. All reasonable means of modifying the application have been made. If one was to step back and have a look at the numerous detached shed building within the locality of the South Barnfells neighbourhood, you would find many sheds similar size and placement on the allotments. And another question to be raised, what are the adverse effects of the development? It is hard to see if any adverse effects to the environment or detrimental neighbouring properties. Therefore, Lithgow City Council support is sought for the subject application to be approved. Yours truly, Dean Moody. And that's the first one. The second one is actual copies of the two submissions made in objection to the same proposal. The first one was a submission dated 22 March 2021. I have received council's letter dated 17 March regarding DA 04421 for proposed shed and toilet at 25 Kirkley Street, South Barnfells. I lodge herewith my objection on the following grounds: scale, bulk, height, amenity. At its peak, the shed measures 5.544 metres and at its height is not less than 3.6 metres for its entire length. The location of the shed is also higher in elevation than my lot which adjoins it. This is a massive shed which will tower over my yard and the rear of my home. Although I have welcomed a shed in that location to afford each landowner some privacy from the other, the shed as currently proposed is a massive overdevelopment of the site. All that will be visible from the rear of my home will be or while me or my children are in the yard will be colourblind wall some 3.744 metres above the existing 1.8 metre high fence. Character: the scale and bulk of the proposed development is completely out of character with other sheds in the estate. The proposed shed looks like an industrial installation, which is completely out of place in a residential subdivision. Any shed should be of a similar size to other sheds or similar size blocks within the subdivision. Use, noise: the nature of the proposed development is such that it appears to be designed for a non-domestic purpose, i.e. industrial or commercial. The applicant owns a plumbing contracting business with significant large earth-moving equipment. My concern, given the size and design of the proposed shed, is that it will be for purposes related to the applicant's business. If that is the case, there will be an unacceptable noise impacts coming from the development, the sound of earth moving, starting, trucks being loaded, reversing, horns, etc. The proposed shed is 7 metres from my dwelling. The nearest point is occupied by my 11-year son's bedroom. If, however, council is minded to approve the development in this or any modified form, a condition should be inserted into any development approval prohibiting the shed from being used for any non-domestic purpose. It is also worth noting that the applicant owns a number of adjoining properties which are currently tenanted. Therefore, the number of objection submissions council might ordinarily receive for the proposed development of this nature may be less than if the adjoining properties were owned by independent persons. I'm more than happy if you or any councillors wish to visit my home to better understand what the impacts of the proposed development would be. Then there was a second submission. The council will note from the report that the application was altered. The second submission, 19 May 2021, I refer to the above matter in your letter 14 from May. I note the amendments to the proposed design. The amended design does nothing to address my concerns. Accordingly, this email should be read in conjunction with my earlier correspondence. The proposed shed is still massive overdevelopment of the site in terms of height and bulk, which is out of character with other development in the area. The peak of the roof is some 5 metres above the natural level of the ground, which in itself occupies an elevated position above my land. Hence my concerns about visual amenity and overshadowing. This type of a shed belongs in an industrial area, not a new housing estate. My main concerns, however, relate to the possible future use of this shed. I am worried that the proponent will either run a large-scale business from there, contrary to the zoning, or use it as a pseudo-dual occupancy. The nature of the shed would allow either of these conflicting land uses. This clearly has not been designed for a small home occupation type use. If council is minded to approve this development, which they shouldn't for the above reasons, they should put a condition on the approval prohibiting the use of the shed for commercial, industrial or residential use.
Thank you, Mr Muir. Quite lengthy. That concludes our public forum. I have a Merrill minute acknowledging the retirement of Jill Marjoram. We did intend as a council to have a small function here, but because of COVID concerns, that was cancelled. As the Mayor and on behalf of the community, I wish to pass on congratulations and well wishes to Jill Marjoram, who is retiring after 46 years in Lithgow Health Services, including her current position as the General Manager of Lithgow District Hospital. Jill led enormous change in health services for the region over the years. The Nepean and Blue Mountains Local Health District have outlined Jill's achievements. Jill started as a student nurse in 1975. She went on to become a registered nurse and midwife and took on a number of roles, eventually being appointed as Director of Nursing, Lithgow, in 1995 and General Manager, Lithgow Portland in 2005. She led Lithgow Hospital's move to Nepean Blue Mountains Local Health District. Jill was part of the leadership group to design, commission and build Lithgow Hospital. Their work 25 years ago set up Lithgow Hospital to still have such a functional and state-of-the-art building to this day. In 2006, along with the Portland community, Jill proudly led the development and commissioning of the Portland Taberlum Health Centre. Jill has mentored and supported many staff, watching them grow from kids and work experience into hospital leaders. Her proudest achievement is fostering the hospital's culture of learning. The hospital fraternity includes medical students, interns and educators. Lithgow Hospital train their own talent. Jill negotiated a partnership with Charles Sturt University to develop external modules in midwifery and arranged for Lithgow Hospital to be accepted to train midwives. Thanks to that work for more than 20 years, people have been able to train as midwives locally. It means Lithgow has been able to maintain a midwifery workforce and has a midwifery service. After a career full of precious memories, it's her own time as a midwife and in palliative care that Jill treasures the most. They are some of the most personal moments families have. You are privileged to be allowed into someone's space that closely at that time. I always treasured being allowed to be involved in other person's family's most intimate moments, and that you are trusted is a real honour. I never took that for granted, says Jill. Jill always valued the importance of direct patient care and prioritised the care of Lithgow community above everything else. I'm sure that Jill's dedication, passion and compassionate care will stand the test of time within the hospital beyond her retirement. I've taken the liberty of congratulating Jill on her retirement in writing on behalf of councillors and the community at large. I so put. Any commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Declare that carried. Notice of motion. Councillor Statham. Have I got a seconder? Seconder Coleman? Councillor Coleman?
Mayor Thompson, the chaplain of the Eastern Star 39 have been in a local government area in Lithgow for 93 years. They're a wonderful group of ladies and they're quite desperate to continue a lease arrangement with Lithgow City Council. They have invested $4,500 in blinds and awnings, curtains and lots of other specialised equipment for their needs. I believe after extensive talks with them that they're very willing to pay extra money for their rent to have that as an exclusive use for them. I realise that in the policy it says that, you can't have exclusive use unless there are requirements that have to be adhered to. In this particular case, it is a very different group for the community. They have a way of setting out their rooms that is under their governance, and there is no other way around that particular issue. They're very willing to negotiate doubling their fee so that they may be able to keep it as an exclusive interest for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Look, as I was reading my business papers, I noticed that a number of items deal with exclusive leaves, which are both medium and short term. I think it's important that we be consistent. I acknowledge that there are different needs meet different things. We need to be consistent in our principle on how we deal with these matters. In regards to this matter, this group has also contacted me. I've also received representation and they believe that they haven't been treated fairly. So my questions are to management. Is the other group also wanting an exclusive to medium-term lease? Can we have some detail in regards to the process and when are we expecting a report?
My understanding is the other group haven't had a chance because of COVID to inspect the facility and thus provide a submission to council as to what they would seek. So I don't have an answer on that, and because of that, I don't have an answer on time frame as well. All I can say is that the current lease arrangements for the current tenant can remain on a month-to-month basis, no problem, until a report does come back to council.
Could you expand
Yeah.
on the differential of the, because later on in the paper, I noticed, Mr Muir, that we've got other leases and licences going to other people. What's the difference in the halls?
This particular facility is a public hall. It starts its life as a public hall. Thus, it, by that very nature, starts its life as having a wider community use. The history of this particular facility, though, is that it wasn't well used for a number of years. We were very, very fortunate that the men's shed actually became the first, I suppose, user of that facility, and they actually brought it back to a usable state. However, at the time, after they vacated and went on to another council facility and set to work on that, there was interest shown by this party. There were no other parties who expressed an interest in that site, and thus the council saw fit to offer them a longer term use rather than to leave the facility for wider community use. There are a number of points of difference probably to the other items, I guess, in the business paper. This is the only one that deals with the use of a council hall. I suppose that's a very, very important issue. For example, with the Portland Touch football, that deals with a situation where there was a group who actually went and actively sought and gained funding to construct a particular facility for their long-term use, in which they've already indicated, my understanding is that they'll make that available for wider community use. But they actually got funding for that facility to go on council land. So that there's some very, very key points of difference in that regard. To that, Portland Touch Football isn't a long-term council building asset. It's a new asset with a particular use which funding was achieved by another party. Thus, the recommendation in that one is that they should have a peppercorn rent to reflect that. Whereas for all other uses, the staff recommendation in accordance with the council policy would be to proceed under the normal arrangements for a minimal rental per annum.
Mayor, if I may, I'm not sure that answered the question. I'm well aware of the two other items, 10.222 and 10.223. Whether it's a hall, tennis courts or a sports ground, it's land owned by council. I'm confused when I look at the second last paragraph on page 5, and I'm going to read it out. Council is restricted in the way it may deal with community property, as outlined in the Local Government Act 1993, in Council's Leasing and Licensing Policy 1.6, and is not authorised to grant an ongoing lease of any community property. Now that's the confusing comment. Now that comment is also repeated in 10.222 and 10.223. Now I'm keen to have people, I see some common sense in the tennis court and the sports ground, but we've got to be consistent. We can either have a lease on community property or we can't. I need to understand that, and you yourself, Mayor, consistently raise the issue of consistency. I need to understand that we're able to lease this hall, to lease the tennis courts, and to lease the sports ground. But that second last paragraph on page 5, I don't know about other councillors, but confuses me. It firstly said that you can't have a lease. So, you know, I'd like that explained in clear, succinct way so we can deal with this matter and deal with the other two matters that later in the paper.
Yes, you can have a lease. It is limited in time. Primarily the main limitation, although there are some, I suppose, some caveats on it, is a 5-year term. But yes, you can lease it. You can.
Okay, so that comment on the second last is really not exactly factual. That second last paragraph on page 5 at the bottom. Yes, I read very well, Mayor, and I know what's in front of me. Now, I don't want to restrict leasing our community property to people. That's what councils do. But I need to be clear about that, and clear about that. If we're going to the item itself, if I stand to be corrected, the issue with this one is that there's two competing people that want to lease that hall. So somewhere down the track, we've got to make a decision, or whoever's got to make a decision. But that second last paragraph at the bottom of page 5 saying we can't make a decision because we can't have an ongoing lease.
I apologise if that word ongoing was not clear. It means that a long-term lease. Community property can be leased, but there is a limitation on time.
So, Mayor, I'm not wanting to be pedantic, but we need to know exactly where we're at. So, is it really meaning that and is not authorised to grant a long-term lease of any community property?
That's a better way to put it.
Well, that makes it a little bit clearer, Mayor.
Comment?
Yes, Mayor Thompson. My understanding from it is they've already been on a lease. There's someone else that wants to look at the building. Had no one been interested in this building, I imagine that a new lease would have been entered into. Could Mr. Muir clarify that for you, Mayor?
More than likely, how it would have played out, I would think, would be there'd be a report back to council to renew the lease for another 5-year term. That would be accurate.
And at one stage, when I raised the issue of the women's shed, I know Councillor Coleman raised the issue of why can't it be a shared facility. I'd like to know, I don't know at this stage who the other group is, why it can't be a shared facility. The Union Theatre is not exclusively used by the Musical Society. It has some constraints. We have a policy. We all agree to it. From a governance perspective, we need to adhere to it. What the community wants is transparent decision making. Not someone complains and, oh, I know them, they're nice people. And look, they probably are lovely people. I don't know them. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to act on behalf of the entire community. I'd like to see a report come back from council which advises us on who the proponents are, what's being proposed, and recommendations on a 5-year lease. So I won't be supporting this recommendation that stands. I need to see more information. I want transparency in our decision making so that every decision we make is based on clear and concise criteria and is consistently applied across the board.
If I could, councillors, just make a little comparison. For a lot of years, the Lithgow Basketball Stadium was used for basketball only. Then other sports decided that they would like to have indoor sports there as well, including futsal, indoor hockey, and other sports, which they were allowed to do.
Sorry.
Yeah, so,
Sorry.
you know, that's just what happens in some... And as you say, the Union Theatre certainly can't be used just for the Musical Society. You know, it's got to be used for other things as well. So when you get two people vying for the same lease, I suppose it's got to come down to a decision by council.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah, so after Councillor McAndrew, Councillor Smith. Councillor McAndrew.
Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment, Mayor, if I may. And the amendment pretty well picks up the last two lines on page 76. The interests of Lithgow Chapter 39, the proposed group will be considered and the matter will be reported to council in due course.
You've got a seconder for that?
Maybe the second that.
Seconder, Councillor Ring. Any discussion on the amendment?
Can now. The amendment is the interests of Lithgow Chapter 39 and the proposed group will be considered and the matter will be reported to council in due course. So council will have an opportunity to make a decision there, I expect. The issue with this, separate to 10.222 and 10.223, is that we've got more than one interested party. So in fairness, both those parties must be heard. And that gives us an opportunity on that amendment that...
Ring?
No, I'm happy with what Councillor McAndrew said. I think that's a fair approach.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
The question I'd like to ask, with this second party involved with the South Littleton Hall, is that now we know there's the old trotting hall room down at the trotting track. That's a brick building owned by the council. Have this party been offered other council-owned facilities to look at rather than South Littleton? They have, and they've declined that offer?
Well, I do know that one you mentioned in particular certainly has been looked at and it's just not suitable.
Mr. Mayor, can I get clarification? Sorry, can I get clarification of that? I didn't think that the Trotting Club was owned by Lithgow City Council.
My understanding, yes, it is correct that it's on Crown land. The actual history of that facility was that it was built by the Trotting Club many years ago, but I understand that it was handed back to council several years ago as a council building.
We'll get that verified.
I'm happy to second.
The horrific dangerous conditions suddenly appear when you have massive storms, which is quite often, especially recently. Just about 200 metres from Hughes Lane and the flyover to Mudgee. I myself personally have experienced travelling along that highway on several occasions where there's cars stopped, cars going sideways, cars pulling off the road. There is a deluge of water. Perhaps it's just as the management comment has suggested, it could be as simple as getting the TF New South Wales people on board and cleaning out some drains or putting in a drain. But I've had many, many complaints about 7 weeks ago when there was 3 accidents up there apparently. Now, I don't know whether the police have been called, I have no idea, but I know 2 of the people that cars ran off the road because they had no vision with their windscreen wipers on high. There was also gale force winds at the time and some hail. So I also pulled off the road that night, and I knew then it was time that we actually see if we could possibly get a letter of support to Minister Toole to have a look at that work required on Tunnel Hill. I do realise the management's comments are that there could be another way about doing it, so I'm happy for Mr Edgkin to speak to us tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. If there is an ongoing maintenance issue in the highway corridor, then I believe it's more than appropriate to engage with the Minister for Transport and Regional Roads, but more importantly, he is our local state member, so I believe that he needs to be advised of the situation.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. If it's the will of the council, I am more than happy to write to Minister Toole and put this issue forward to him. However, we do have a very good relationship with the local Transport for New South Wales administration, and when these issues are put to them, for example, flooding under the highway across the road from the Lithgow Hospital and flooding across the highway adjacent to the Marangaroo turnoff, those issues are dealt with promptly and with requisite attention being placed on them. So I would advise that we would contact Transport for New South Wales, the administration, directly, as they would be the ones to solve the problem regardless, but I would be more than happy to write to Minister Toole if it's your will as well.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment that we also include, after the words drain up upgrades, and a review of maintenance procedures between Medlow Bath and Tunnel Hill, and therefore delete.
Point of order, Medlow Bath is not in our LGA.
I'm talking about the impact of drainage problems on the Great Western Highway generally. We have actually in the past discussed matters of speed limits from Lapston to Marangaroo. It's not. I think it's. But it's up to you, Mr. Mayor, if you wish to rule it out of order. But fine. okay, that a review of maintenance procedures between Medlow Bath and Tunnel Hill. That's my and a review. That's my amendment to include those words. In speaking to it, we had a. Thank you.
Can I just ask, is it replacing the current recommendation?
No, it's just adding.
Second point.
Yeah, basically a second point to increase the if we go to write to Minister Toole, I'm suggesting that we actually make a letter that's not, specifically a 100-metre section of the Great Western Highway, but we address the major problems, which is the drainage problems inherent right through the area. And if you're wondering why the Great Western Highway was blocked some months ago, it was a drainage problem at Medlow Bath.
Yeah, on that base, I'm happy to second.
I'm happy to include that.
Well, in that case, I'll just speak to the motion. Well, it's just that the Great Western Highway did have a major hold-up some months back, and it was a drainage problem, and that needs to be addressed. And the problem is that the lack of proper maintenance on the highway generally.
The question I want to ask, was this issue pushed to the TAL committee at all? Well, I just thought that haven't we got a protocol where we go? Oh, I'm happy for this. I think it's a great idea, but I think there's also a protocol we go through. If we're going to do this, do we just bypass the TAL committee all the time? I think the TAL committee should be included in these sort of issues on these talks all the time. I know Traffic New South Wales are on the TAL committee, and I understand that, Mr. Edgecombe, but I just think we should, when we bring these to council, we should say we've been to the TAL committee and now we want to go to the local member. I just think they need to be involved. We have two members on the TAL committee. I think it's Councillor Leslie and Councillor Goodwin, and they need to have the talk before it gets here.
Yeah, we've certainly spoken about Marangaroo on a number of occasions. So happy to talk and happy to support it if they want to go to Councillor Mr. Toole, Minister Toole. But yeah, I think it should come through the TAL committee anyway.
Sorry. I think we'll be waiting a very long time for Minister Toole to fix a drainage problem at Marangaroo. My amendment would be simply that council staff contact New South Wales Transport and get the matter fixed. Get that fixed. If you want to do additional surveys, whatever, on the road in that space, well, do it separately. But this is specifically talking about a flooding issue, and how long will we wait for that whole assessment, for that recommendation? It just should be done and done now. Just let staff handle it.
If Councillor Goodsall wants to move that,
Happy to move it.
I'll second it.
The amendment would be down the bottom, council staff contact Transport for New South Wales as a priority to investigate the cause for concern and report back to the council by memorandum. Report back to council.
If I could speak to that, Mayor Thompson, if Councillor Goodsall's finished. This is about one issue. This, and from my perspective, when I read it, this should have come to the Operations Committee, should have gone to the Town Committee. This isn't a ministerial issue or a local member at this point. If the staff contact Transport for New South Wales and are told to bugger off or we'll do it in 12 months, by all means, we go political. But I think we've got to be careful. It's very easy to get here and go, we're going to grandstand and criticise the government on the Great Western Highway. Maybe some of us should be looking at the comments on Facebook about how we manage our own roads. I think we need to clean up our own backyard. If Councillor Leslie wants to bring a notice of motion to the next meeting about the highway from Medlow Bath all the way through, fine. But tonight we're dealing with one issue, an issue that should have been dealt with quickly and efficiently through Mr. Edgecombe and through the appropriate council committees. Then if we're not getting the support we need for Transport for New South Wales, then we go down the political route. But you don't go down the political route every time there's a problem. You go down that route when you're persistently not back in getting solutions from the appropriate government departments.
Mayor, can I make a suggestion? We've now got a recommendation in two parts, 1 and 2, that have been accepted by the mover and the seconder. Taking on board what's just been said, I'd be happy to put to the mover and seconder that we have a third and fourth part, that it goes to TALC and also goes to the Transport New South Wales engineers, and we cover the whole spectrum then. So if there is a hold up with Minister Toole, then at least we've gone to Transport New South Wales as well. That's if the movers and the seconders are happy with that, then I think that covers all the bases. I don't care what order, Mayor. I'm just saying that there's, if we can add those 2 extra points, that covers the areas, right?
Point of order.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to offer a little bit of clarity with respect to the TALC committee. It is specifically not for issues of maintenance. That committee has no delegation. We can use the committee as a forum outside of the TALC committee itself to speak with Transport for New South Wales, but the committee as a whole, as TALC, isn't a council committee. It's a committee formed by Transport for New South Wales to deal with matters of traffic compliance that aren't specifically delegated to council. So it relates to things like stop signs, give way signs, changes to parking layouts, those sorts of things. We can't, the TALC committee itself cannot deal with matters of maintenance.
Just in fairness, this is Councillor Statham's motion, so she should be given the opportunity to answer what Councillor McAndrew has actually put up.
Yeah, I'm going to put that, if the mover and the seconder is prepared to take those 2 extra points.
Can we get it up on the screen? Is that possible? I know it's difficult with Zoom, but...
Well, Mayor, all I've simply done is add the TALC and the Transport New South Wales engineers into the notification process. That's on top of the 1 and 2 that's originally, number 1 originally put by Councillor Statham and number 2 added by Councillor Leslie.
I'm just listening to what Mr. Edgecombe said, Councillor McAndrew. Maybe because it's a maintenance problem, this doesn't go to TALC.
Not be included. Okay.
TALC doesn't need to be included.
Understood. Well,
Thank you,
only
Mr.
one extra
Edgecombe.
point.
Because that is what I was instructed, that TALC was not interested in this. This is a Great Western Highway. This is a major issue. By the time it went to when you have your next operations meeting, then goes to TALC. It's something that needs to be expedited. It is a very, very dangerous situation.
Well, because it needs to be expedited, I think if you're welcome to put that extra 3rd point in, Councillor Statham.
Happy to do that.
That it goes to Transport New South Wales as well as... Okay, then any other discussion on that, councillors?
Yeah, I'd just like clarification with Councillor Goodstall and myself and what we put up. What are we actually going to be voting on?
We're going to vote on that it goes to Transport New South Wales, including a letter to, well, the other 2 points. That it goes a letter to Minister Toole as well. And
that's not what we put up before. We put up an amendment, or Councillor Goodstall did. The council staff contract Transport for New South Wales.
Fair enough. Okay. Right.
All I'm asking now is clarification. Is that the amendment we are looking at now and going to vote on?
I don't think that is exactly what the amendment was. So that was my fault. I put it to Councillor Statham when she accepted that as a 3rd point. So we're going to vote on the amendment now, which is...
Mayor, can I ask the question of the mover and seconder of the amendment? Are they prepared to add it as a point 3 in the original recommendation?
Yes or no? Are you happy to? No.
No.
Okay. No.
That's fine.
So have we got 2 amendments?
No.
Turn your microphone on.
And report back to council. That's what the amendment is. You've got that in front of you now? Or?
I still think that there's two amendments.
No, there's not. Yep. No, there wasn't an amendment. It was just another point added to the original recommendation. Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So if it's urgent, we just need to get it done and fixed. Let's just get it done.
And then,
Isn't that
is there
what I
any
said in
other
the first
discussion on the
place?
amendment? I shall put the amendment then. Those in favour of the amendment? I declare it lost. Oh, hang on. No, what did you voted for the amendment, Councillor Goodwin? Yes. So I declare the amendment won. So now it becomes a motion. Those in favour of the amendment, Councillor Smith, Goodsall, Ring, Thompson, and Goodwin. Okay, so now that becomes the motion. Any commentary on the motion?
Yes, I'd like it read out if possible. The whole motion now.
Yep. The council staff contact Transport of New South Wales as a matter of priority regarding the drainage problem on the Great Western Highway at Barangaroo and it's a Tunnel Hill, isn't it? Not at Tunnel Hill, and a report be brought back to council. So can we change Barangaroo to Tunnel Hill, thanks? Okay.
In this case, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak against the motion.
Thank you.
At the moment, we've got such a mealy-mouthed motion, we might as well just leave it to...
Point of order, Mayor Thompson. Come on, seriously. Lift your game up.
Okay. We've got such a weak motion, we might as well just leave it to Mr. Edgecombe to go through the normal processes that would have occurred had this notice of motion never come before the council.
I'd like to speak against it. I believe that the original motion that Councillor Statham put forward, which I was happy to second, was where we should have been heading with this.
And if I may speak, if anybody else put the motion up, it would have been over and done with by now and moved and seconded and on to the next. Oh, well, as usual, I have no success, so another one, we'll just might as well turn on to the next page, I think.
Mayor, the point of order,
Point of
Mayor,
order,
that every time Councillor Statham loses an argument, she comes back with this infantile response. I'm sick of it, and I expect all other councillors are as well.
Do you think I get sick of putting notices of motion up? Excuse me,
Once
don't
again,
speak over.
Once again, Mayor, the point of order I've called on Councillor Statham. This happens every single time she's defeated at a item or a matter.
May I speak? I'm sick and tired of people in the public telling me that I get...
Councillor Statham, you have a notice of motion in front of you. Has she got a seconder?
Be to second it.
Councillor Statham.
We all know this road has caused us much grief, much time and much energy. The residents of Willowvale Lane, yes, there aren't that many of them, but they have been wanting this done for a couple of decades. I've been on council almost a decade and it's been on the list ever since I've been on council. So the reading from what I believe is a letter from Mr. Toole said that he was, if it was the fixing local roads, which they put $691 million in, that the idea would be for council to at least support it and then put in a funding application. And if it gets not done over and not successful, we've done our job. That is the least we can do to either get rid of this situation or make sure it gets done. That is all I'm simply asking. I've had many, many phone calls again over this week. So we all have. We're all getting lobbied by these people. They need to be told it's never going to be done, or let's put some funding in for the fixing local roads and see if we cannot get it done in time. Simple as that.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. I assume, like Councillor Stathan, that I too have received the same representation from the same residents at Willowvale Road. Yes, this road has been like this for the past 20 years, and different residents have lobbied different councillors at different time over the couple of years. I sent an email to Mr Edgecombe on the 10th of June 2021. Thank you very much, Mr Edgecombe, for your response. I appreciate it. I understand. My question is, Mayor Thompson, is the management comment written? Was that written by you, Mr Edgecombe? Thanks. Maybe we could go into detail in regards to that.
Commentary, councillors?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm opposed to the notice of motion. I think the management comments are quite clear. If I recall, I think this matter's been brought to council 3 times now. 3 times. Yeah, all of us get requests from people regarding lanes and roads and the like. I know of lanes and roads in Portland and Wang in Portland main business district that needs work done on. At the end of the day, as the management comment talks about, it's all based on merit and priority. And when you look at specifically at the Willowvale Lane, and it's in the 3rd paragraph of the management comment, and I quote, "The matter has been reconsidered in 2021 with traffic counts being placed on the asset. The average daily traffic volumes are currently 123 vehicles per day. Unfortunately, with over 200 segments of sealed road that are currently rated condition 4 or 5 worn or poor, many of which carrying traffic volumes in excess of 500 vehicles per day." So the staff can only do what they can do and put priority in place to try and deal with these matters as they come up. And based on this, it's quite clear that there are other priorities before Willowvale Lane.
100% support what Councillor McAndrew has said. I don't support it either. We must work within the guidelines and the financial capabilities of council and the operational plan, and the sealing of roads falls into the category of priority, and we just can't pick and choose which roads we want to reseal. As councillors, we should be working side by side with staff and the engineering department who have got the capabilities and the skills and the experience to make these decisions on our behalf.
Thank you. Councillor Ring?
I'd like to follow on in that vein. I did not support this one as brought to council previously. I will not support it now. We have spent considerable money, and I have pushed at operations meeting consistently about the asset management programming of this council. What we need, as I said previously, is transparent and consistent criteria for making decisions. That is what the community wants. This road is not a high risk. This road is very short. It's actually not in bad condition. I've driven it. I know of worse roads, as Councillor McAndrew said, in the community. I've had lots of representations from the Glenelg community about roads down there. I've sat in their AGM and told them certain roads will not get done. They're not a priority. Because at the end of the day, if I go to a pub, I want to put my hand over my heart as a councillor and say, we funded that road because it was the most dangerous in the community. Not because Joe Blow down the bloody road yelled and I know them. This council in the past has had a bad history of jobs for the boys. We need to build confidence by the community.
Point of order, Councillor Ring, that's not correct.
All right, I'll withdraw that comment.
Would you please? Yes, thank you.
Essentially, the community has a lack of faith in the decision-making process of this council. We need to ensure that decisions are made transparently on consistent criteria. As I said, not on who yells the loudest or who knows who.
Mayor Thompson, irrespective of whether I believe the road should be tarred or not, has got nothing to do with it. It's been elected as a councillor to do what we are required, to listen to the community and put in complaints or requests at their wishes. You don't pick and choose which are the good ones and the bad ones. So I believe in transparency. There wouldn't be anybody in this council chambers that wouldn't be more transparent than I am. But I do not and will not take the blame for putting this notice of motion in. I put it in as a request from families there that had received a letter from Mr Toole saying that if you were to put in funding, you may be successful. That's as simple as that.
Any other commentary, councillors? Oh, that's a right reply. I shall put that then. Those in favour? Those against? I declare it lost. Councillor Statham and Councillor Coleman. Notice of motion, Councillor Ring. Have I got a seconder? Thank you, sir, Councillor McCann.
Yeah, if I can hear it, Mayor Thompson.
Support the first recommendation. Second point, the administration advised the National Parks and Wildlife Service responsibility.
Yeah, look, I got no problem with that. It's consistent with the theme that I've put forward. This proposal is not about the merits or otherwise of the Destination Pagoda proposal. It's about its footprint. The two attachments from the documents that provided councillors show widely different areas to be part of this proposal. It encompasses the Clarence, Dargan and Cullen-Bullen communities. The communities are concerned about the future management of the interface between the reserve and their urban communities. After the 2019-20 Black Summer bushfires, we need to take serious stock of their concerns. Their mental health has been impacted on. We need to find out what the concerns are, to see how their concerns can be mitigated and ensure that we can go to the government and to work for our community to mitigate that, to ensure that they're safe moving forward. The Cullen-Bullen State Forest had no hazard reduction for several years prior to those fires. It was raised in a bushfire meeting that I attended on behalf of the Mayor. The response was, we didn't have the money. The reality was, it wasn't a priority because there is no money to be made in hardwood forests. It placed our communities at risk. I don't consider that acceptable. I want to know what the concerns are so as a council we can move forward and take appropriate action for the safety of our residents. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Councillor Ring has covered a lot of it, and I've got to admit as well, the Garden Stone locality map is confusing to say the least, and I've had a look at it a number of times. I picked up and asked for that second point mainly on the relation to the management comment, and I quote from it. After Lithgow's experience in recent years with significant bushfires, there is an increased expectation amongst our community that owners of large tracts of bushland, and especially government, will responsibly manage fire risk. No matter what map you look at, this is a large area, the Gardens of Stone, and certainly it's got to be managed in a way that protects our local communities. And some of these large National Parks and Wildlife Service is a huge organisation, government organisation, and they need to come up, as far as I'm concerned, or satisfied council that they've got in place mitigation processes for fire mitigation.
Mayor, through you, I've got a question for Councillor Ring. Did Lidsdale Rural Fire Brigade and Marangaroo today speak to you?
No, I haven't spoken with them, only with the Cullen-Bullen Brigade and the Clarence Dargan Brigade.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is about Destination Pagoda, and I note that Councillor Ring says that it's not about the merits of Destination Pagoda, which he says he publicly supports. Well, I think it is about Destination Pagoda, and I think it's about the constant undermining of Destination Pagoda. So what we've got here is a proposal where you're trying to have both sides of the coin. You're trying to say, yes, I like it, and then come in with a series of undermining, delays, confusions, in irrelevant issues. It looks like, to me, a poor attempt at wedge politics. Well, I'll bite. Destination Pagoda has my full support, and I believe that the resident concerned need not worry, as any conflict, if any, will be so minor and part of the normal operational procedures as to be inconsequential. Fires are a natural part of the process here, we know that, and they're dealt with. They're dealt with well, and if they're not dealt with well, there's a report, we get to do it better the next time around. We have experienced fire captains, we have people who understand the issues, and it should just be left. This idea of trying to, again, micromanage. Of course, the elections won't be on the 4th of September, so when this motion was put up last Friday week, we thought it would be. So let's get real. Let's see what it's all about. But what the notice motion does not raise, and it should, is the unanswered questions we've had coming from the Case for Economic Change report, which came down in October last year and has not yet been reported back to council. Now, let's look at the Transitions Working Party recommendation about tourism, and their very first recommendation, making the Gardens of Stone initiative a reality. No ifs, no buts, no prevarication, such as we see in this motion. No thoughts about how can we, let's do it, but then undermine it at every opportunity we get. Let's get the report. Let's see what the case for, what Renzo and his team, have put forward, their recommendations. That's what we need to do. We need to look at it properly. We need to get a report on tourism. We're not doing it. We're just mucking around, trying to undermine before we get a proper report. And we're trying to get out there and have it both ways. And I think it's very sad.
I have a question. I've read the notice of motion and I've read the management comment. So according to the management comment, is this already an existing practice? Are we already doing this anyway? Is that my understanding of the management comment? They're already engaging with the community up there as well?
Yes, they are. Of course they are.
So if I could get an answer.
Have to take that on notice, Councillor.
Okay, if someone could get back to me, that'd be great.
Councillor Ring, right to reply.
Well, Councillor Leslie didn't disappoint. Not one little bit. I have made it clear in the past that I support this in principle. I have concerns. This is not the only concern I have with it. I've told the people that support it locally. I also like to see a transport corridor retained through this area for future rail development. As a council, we did not take the opportunity to engage, to review, to be able to put a position forward. To me, this is simply about safety of residents. I've worked in the fire rooms. I haven't worked on the fire line per se, but I have been out to fires delivering equipment. I know how it works, and yes, they do reviews after fires. The one thing they don't want to hear about are problems. I can tell you that for a fact. This is about the mental health of our residents moving forward and getting feedback on them. This is very simple. This is about the safety of our residents. The idea that we're just going to have little fires in the future, yeah, right. Probably because I'm a climate denier, and a dinosaur, according to Councillor Leslie, as he puts out in the public media. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day...
Mr Mayor?
Point of order, that's offensive.
Never once have I ever said that Councillor Ring...
You called all the councillors on this council dinosaurs on your post.
Councillor Ring, I'd ask you to withdraw that.
Withdraw the comment.
Thank you.
Heat of the moment, Councillor Mayor Thompson. At the end of the day, this is about mental health of our residents. This is about safety. This is about engaging with this project to ensure that the end product is to the benefit of our community, not to any other agenda. It's that simple.
Councillor Ring, I shall put that then. Beg pardon? Yeah, voting. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Declare that carried. Those against? Councillor Statham, Coleman and Leslie.
Happy to move.
If they don't.
I do not.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. I actually attended the National Assembly with your good self and the Deputy Mayor, Wayne McAndrew. And I was actually witnessing the debate around the motions in regards to road and transport connections. As we know, this area is dealing with difficult transport and road connections, especially with the Great Western Highway. Prior to the current health emergency, it was banked up over the Great Western Highway. We've had issues on the Bells Liner Road with maintenance. So it was really great to see the debate on the floor regarding establishing a facilitating and a better road and transport connections between the cities and the regions. Once we get past this health emergency, hopefully, tourism will be very important to this area. And it was great to see that that debate, which I supported, went to National Assembly.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may very briefly. Look, the main issues of the conference was disaster support, COVID, bushfire, flooding and the like. And a lot of the debate was around the fair or better allocation of the FAG grants. They're especially an issue of this grant funding in front and not respective. So a lot of councils raised the issue about a lot of times that you've got to do something and spend the money then and try and get the money back. So a lot of the conversation and the conference was about those main areas. You'd recall, Mayor, that you and I had many meetings with government and opposition politicians. I think that number was probably around about a dozen over that period of day. We walked those corridors of the Parliament in Canberra, and what we raised with all of those pollies was jobs as the main issue. And of course, we talked about federal government assistance with job and business opportunities for our community. We touched on the issue of FAILS, the railway, university, manufacturing, government department relocation. And as Councillor Coleman has touched on as well, we impressed very clearly how important it was for the best of road and rail access to Sydney from our community. Those are the areas we punched on all the time. And we got a good hearing, I thought, from both government members and opposition members.
Mr. Smith.
Mayor, I'd like to hear the General Manager's views on this, if we could, just to see what he got out of it as regards to our leader.
Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor Coleman and Councillor McAndrew have summed it up beautifully, and I hope the report is informative also. Look, I think it was a unique opportunity to, as the Deputy Mayor indicated, to come out from under our bushel and indicate that the policies that are being taken at a national level really can have an impact on the ground, and they already are in Lithgow. We're not asking for a handout, but what we're asking is for government to invest now and work with us to start to position our economy for the future. It was refreshing to share meals and conversations with our peers. Certainly I was speaking to Glen Innes, Leeton, Ballingen, Blue Mountains and numerous other councils, Singleton as well. We also heard about the Australian Local Government Association's priorities and the advocacy. But, overwhelmingly what we heard is, as much as local government doesn't have a seat at the table in national cabinet, we are the conduit between the other levels of government and the community. And never is that more so than in these times and after the series of disasters that our communities and all communities around Australia have been exposed to. And again, I think we're very much part of the solution for the future. I found it a particularly refreshing and informative General Assembly.
Thank you.
If I could make one more comment.
Councillor Farmer.
The comment I took away was very enlightening, was councillors are community-based, state and federal politicians legislate. And I think for me, that really made what we do really, really important.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. If there's no other commentary, I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Uh, 10.2.1,
Happy to
proposed garage
Happy
with
to
bathroom,
second.
25 Kirkley Street. Who moved that? Councillor Goodsall? Who? Seconded, Councillor Leslie? Was it? Ring, Councillor Ring. Sorry. Councillor Goodsall.
No, not much to say. It's a compliant, simple DA.
Councillor Ring.
There was one complaint. I think the proponent should be commended for taking on board some of those issues and did reduce the overall floor area, reoriented the roof, as it listed on page 14 of the report. I think it's a simple issue. It's a shed going up. It's no different to that large shed that was put out at Hartley. The person is a tradesman. He'll have his tool and his equipment there. There's no intent from what we could see that it's going to be used commercially. That will also be a condition in the DA. I don't think it's an issue. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may just briefly, I went to the on-site meeting and I agree with what's been said by Councillor Ring. The applicant did make some changes, and my understanding was the opposer was mainly concerned about the garage being used for services other than garaging vehicles. And I note on the bottom of page 14 and the second last paragraph, the last sentence, I quote, "A condition to ensure the proposed garage is not used for any commercial, industrial or residential purposes is also recommended to be imposed on the development consent." And I understand that was one of the main issues of the objector. So I'm hoping that the objector will take some calm in that in relation to that being comfort, in that condition being placed on the applicant.
If those conditions are adhered to, and they should be because it's part and parcel of the consent, everything should be okay.
Can I
Any
ask
other
a-
commentary?
Yeah, can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor? In the attachments, it says that the building does not comply with the maximum floor area or the building height. Can I just get some clarification on that?
Might just seek Councillor Goulden's assistance to take me to where that is in the section 79C report, is it?
Yeah, just bear with me. I'll just go into the. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, just bear with me. I'll just go into the attachments.
Now, look, is it possible to have the mask removed while people are answering? My hearing is not the best at the best of times, and I'm struggling to hear. It's a muffled response.
I believe not.
No, it's not.
No, I believe not. Sorry, Councillor McAndrew, but
Okay, I'm going on to page. Where are we?
I'm only going on the health advice, Councillor McAndrew.
Yeah, yeah. Page 6 of 19. It does not comply with the following controls. Floor area, DCP maximum is 100 metres squared. Proposed is 152 metres squared. The maximum building height is 4.5, but the proposed building height is 5.1. Can you explain that for me? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Goulden. The officers, whilst the draft DCP was in its draft stage, were performing their assessments against the DCP to see how it went and also to ensure that there was some flexibility built in. Thus, whilst it did not technically comply because the DCP was not in existence, it has no bearing in any event.
Okay, you happy with that, Councillor Good?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy. I'm still not supporting the motion.
Yeah, righto. So any other commentary, councillors?
Yes, please.
Yes, councillor.
Mayor Thompson, I think the applicant has done some very goodwill work in knowing that there were some changes suggested, and you have to live next door to your neighbours usually for a very long time. So I'm sure the applicant now would be more willing to accept the changes that has been done or going to be proposed.
No, I don't think there's anything outstanding about this, DA. Yeah, happy to move it. And like I said, the applicant has reduced floor size, reoriented the roof, set it back from the fence, landscaping, screening. No, I'm happy.
I can't hear.
All right. You was against that, councillor Goodwin? Yeah.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I've read the comprehensive planning and assessment report. I support the recommendation. The use of council land has been identified and assessed. There are no detrimental effects to the extensions of the tin shed. Although it's been identified they've used some council land, we still need to encourage this type of development. And obviously a lease needs to be put in place, and I approve the GM to execute as such.
Thank you, councillor. Good. So, councillor Ring.
Yeah, look, I support it. Councillor Goodsall summed it up. I did look at the lots on 6 maps, and they are weird-shaped lots. And I did discuss with the general manager that in the future we may want to do a review of all our community lands and whether or not we can rationalise that block and possibly sell off a portion of the Union Theatre land that's being currently used. But that's something for the future. At the moment, I fully support this.
Any other commentary, councillors? Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. I would like clarification from the General Manager. Like, I understand it's a retrospective development, but can I just ask the General Manager for some advice? I need to be clear on what I'm voting for or against. How does this work within regards to the Local Government Act? What happens in 5 years' time when regarding the lease? You know, how are we going to put checks and balances when that lease comes up, if it is all actually signed? We need to be consistent with commercial properties and leasing. I mean, that seems to be the theme of this meeting tonight. So if I could get that clarification for myself, I need to be sure on what I'm voting for or not voting for.
Mr. Muir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What council is voting on tonight is the DA itself, not the lease. The lease has to come in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Muir. Any other commentary, councillors? Right to reply, councillor Goodsall? No. I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried unanimous.
Yeah, Mayor, happy to move.
Happy to second.
Yeah, Mayor, in moving the item, I congratulate Mr. Muir on the report. I want to read from what I believe are some important parts of that report, and it's under commentary, and I just pick up some of the comments. Council's view that the proposal is most properly categorised as a waste disposal facility. This is a key point. Under the planning definitions, it correctly defined as a waste or resource management facility, and any reference to rehabilitation is misleading. Going forward is intended to refer to the project as a Bell Quarry Waste Management Facility, as this is a more accurate representation of the proposal. It goes on further, Mayor, to talk about this is considered an important test case because of the potential impacts of the Greater Blue Mountains World Heritage Area and wider waste disposal implications. And under policy implications, Mayor, on page 20, it has been a long-standing position of Lithgow City Council to oppose the importation of Sydney waste to the Lithgow local government area. I want to make those points, Mayor, from the report, but I also have a number of questions. The report talks about further actions that are occurring or are anticipated to have occurred prior to the council meeting are as follows. Correspondence to the Minister for Energy and Environment, the local members seeking their support for government involvement in the case. Correspondence to the Blue Mountain City Council and Hawkesbury City Council seeking their support in this matter, and facilitation of public input to the defence of this matter. Where are we up to with those 3 dot points? Because I know the recommendation is asking us to endorse the action carried out or proposed as indicated in the body of the report. I just wonder where that those 3 dot points are up to, Mayor, and whether that's been responded to.
In regard to the first dot point, that correspondence has gone off to both the Minister and the local member. In relation to the correspondence to the 2 adjoining councils, that correspondence has actually gone off through our lawyers, and I understand there has been some discussion with our lawyers and at least one of those councils. We were likely to send a direct correspondence from council again, so as well as our lawyers. Facilitation of public input to the defence of this matter. Some of that will be, I guess, there were about 470 submissions, and each one of those parties who put in submissions have been contacted by our lawyers and have been invited to take part in some way, shape or form. That being the case, that being said, I suppose we're still interested in seeing what else we might be able to do to raise the public profile and the awareness of this particular matter. Bearing in mind, in reality, when we get to the actual conciliation conference, there's likely to be a limitation on the number of people that can speak. But I think it's important in terms of being able to identify that there is a wider public interest in this particular matter. And I suppose it's a bit new to us on how we actually deal with it, but we believe from a staff perspective that we need to fight, and we need to fight hard, and hopefully the council's on board, of course.
Just another question before I ask the seconder to speak. Have we got support of the RFS in this particular item?
I'd have to take that one on notice as to what their submissions were. I'm unsure. I know one of the issues that was raised during the assessment related to the fact that water body is used during periods of fire. I don't recall that it was actually a specific reason for refusal, so I'd just have to take that question on notice.
If not, if you could follow that up, I think it's fairly important if we can get them on side. Councillor Goodsall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think we should continue to fight this one. In the report it says, to fill this quarry is deemed to be rehabilitation by the proponent. However, it's also stated in the report that the site has already been sufficiently remediated. So it's confusing. It's he said, she said. Alternatively, what else I have identified in this report is that Council are saying that we've had a long-standing position to impose the importation of Sydney waste. Is there an actual policy on this, please? Before you answer that, I understand this position. Generally, we don't want to be filling up a quarry with waste or whatever, but if we're ever in a position to reuse Sydney waste to generate electricity in a safe and efficient way, providing employment for our residents, I wouldn't want us to be excluded from that scenario. So do we actually have a policy, the long-standing policy? Can I ask what it is, please?
Yeah, I don't think we've got a policy. We've got a resolution of council, I think, but I'll let Mr Mayor speak to that.
Certainly there is not a policy in the context of the council's policy register. There is, I suppose, a de facto policy in terms of previous resolutions of the council going back some time.
Mayor Thompson, sorry. Question once of Mr Muir, if I could just interrupt. Mr Muir wasn't able to find the actual resolution. It has been referenced a number of times. But it would be nice to have a copy of that resolution moving forward.
Thank you. Any other councillors?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Councillor Leslie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would oppose any use of Sydney waste to to man an electricity generation at Mount Piper or anywhere, the sulfur dioxides, the hydrogen sulfides, and the mix of other unknown compounds that come out of a mixture of plastics and other rubbish that you find in waste is something that would never be able to be properly filtered or protected. It's the items themselves are so small that would be perpetually dangerous to the health and well-being of the people associated and nearby. So I support the idea that we don't use Sydney waste, and that includes the use for electricity purposes.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Look, I find it really alarming that a company would continually rehabilitate a quarry that's already been rehabilitated. Like, I support this recommendation, and congratulations to the staff for doing the work. I'm bamboozled at what the commercial gain would be. Like, why would you keep coming backwards and forwards to do a job that's already been done? Congratulations on the staff for guarding the report.
The short answer to that, Councillor Coleman, is that they come up with truckloads of asbestos with dirt on the top and put it in a quarry. That's
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Thompson.
Mayor Thompson, when this first came to council, I remember that I'm fairly certain in the past that council had actually signed off on the remediation work. Can Mr Muir clarify if that's correct? I'm fairly certain at the time it was signed off.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That's my recollection.
Yeah.
The quarry had been rehabilitated in accordance with the requirements of the previous council consents and the government, relevant government departments.
But it's not the company that rehabilitated that's seeking this. This is a company that purchased the land
I believe that's correct.
to actually get financial gain out of it. So we need to continue opposing this. It's all the way.
right. A reply, Councillor McAndrew.
Yeah, I just want to comment on a couple of the matters raised. When you look at what I read out, it's been a long-standing position of Lithgow City Council, not a formal policy. But you'd be well aware, Mayor, I can recall when they wanted to burn medical waste here, they wanted to bring building waste. We had illegal Sunny Corner waste dumping in the Sunny Corner forest. So there's been a myriad, and there are only three that I can recall off the bat, Mayor. And this community has a long-standing position of opposing those types of things.
Never had my mic on. Councillor Goodman, you happy with that? Yes, good. Thank you. I've got a thing here in front of me saying use your mic and I still don't turn it on. Propose.
Happy to move.
Move that.
Happy to move.
Moved. Councillor Smith, seconded. Councillor Statham. Councillor Smith.
This is a great initiative for Portland, and the committee out there are to be commended, and in working with the council, they've done a great job raising the funding grant for this facility. I've been out and had a look at it. It's a great amenity for our local community, and they're to be commended, and it's a great thing.
Thank you, Councillor Statham.
Yes, I was invited to be of assistance to them, so I invited Minister Toole and Deputy Premier John Barilaro to Portland for two reasons: to seek out work at the foundations for some funding, and the amenities block for the touch football. I've been lobbying for it now for 5 years, and I'm very delighted to say it's an amazing venue. It was $500,000 in funding, and I think because the club actually sought and obtained their own funding, this is a difference to the leases that we've been discussing previously in council tonight.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Mayor Thompson. Look, this is a great report, and full accolades to Sandra Politi. Is that how you say her name? Yeah, look, she needs to be commendated on that. It's a clear pathway to a decision-making process. I will definitely be supporting this fantastic project for Portland. This is a fantastic example of community, council, partnership, working together to achieve a great outcome for all. And I enjoy the fact that I get to drive past this amenity each day when I go to the shops.
Yeah, well said, Councillor Coleman. I've just got a question. In the commentary, it states that the group want to pay a peppercorn dollar. In the comments down the bottom of page 22, it says that the licensing fee of 510 will be charged. Just wondering if the recommendation needs to reflect what we're charging or not.
Mr.
Yeah, I think what it says in the comments is that a deviation is a deviation from the normal 510. So it's proposed that the lease would be for a peppercorn rental.
Yes, Mayor. Look, it's great. It's good to see the building up. It's good to see this has come to fruition after some time. Coming to Councillor Goodsall's comment, it is at the bottom of page 22, and it talks about a deviation from the standard minimum annual fee licence fee of 510 per annum, and greater licence term is considered reasonable in this instance, given the Touch Football Association sought and obtained funding for the building, and that building is for a particular use for which funding was sought. So they're really, I think it was something like $500,000, Mayor. So this group has virtually come to the party, and ultimately council will own the facility.
Those in favour? Good on you, Darryl. Sorry. I didn't have the mic on again. Proposed licence agreement with Lithgow City.
Move that way, thank you, Mayor Thompson.
Move Councillor Statham, seconded Councillor McAndrew.
In this, it has something that's a little bit disturbing. It has in here that the no funding is about. Now, if you read very carefully into this, you've got to read down so that you can see it, but it is actually quite alarming. How are people going to learn how to play tennis if they're not?
Can I ask where that is? And is Councillor Statham wanting to change 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 of the recommendation? Microphone on, Councillor.
I need it pointed out.
I do need to point it out, I'm sorry. Must not be used for personal gain or profit. Now, I'm not sure whether that would mean tennis coaches, because I guess they get paid to coach tennis. So I'm not sure. It's 0.5. I'm not just sure what we should do, whether we should put another point in there to tennis coaches.
Look, I'll just get a commentary from Mr. Muir, because that's not exactly what that means.
Yeah, but my view is that this is an agreement between the council and the tennis club. A tennis coach is a separate entity.
I think it also mentioned it in the previous report, in the Touch Football report about, yeah.
Okay, Councillor McAndrew. Have you spoken to that, Councillor Statham? You're happy with finishing?
Oh, I'm very happy with it, yes.
Okay, Councillor McAndrew.
Hey, look, I'm not going to, once again, it's appropriate leased for an appropriate body that have been around for some time, and recommendations 1 through to 5 cover all the matters. I haven't got a concern with the not-for-profit. That's an issue for the tennis facility and who they bring or don't bring in to coach their kids or their players.
Any other commentary, councillors? Right or reply, Councillor Statham?
No, very happy with the report, thank you.
Okay, shall I put that, councillors? Those in favour? Thanks, Darryl. Carried it.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Look, I think this is a very good report. The development control plan's been a long time in coming. I've been pushing Mr. Muir ever since I got on council in relation to this. What this document will provide, it's a living document, it's going to change over time. It will provide developers with guidance on what we as a council and the community consider appropriate development. It is not set in law in terms of it is not prescriptive. is not legislatively based. It is a guideline, a set of guidelines that allows the conversation to be started. Where the proponent may wish to deviate, if they can explain it, they can still do it. It doesn't stop people from thinking outside the square. I do agree with the ongoing review on page 30 in relation to the flood-prone lands, industrial uses, and the tourist development. There are significant changes coming and more work being done. They'll get withdrawn at the moment, they'll get worked up, and then they'll go back in. And as we move forward, additional chapters may or may not be added. I think it's a very good document.
Yes, I agree with everything Councillor Ring has said, and just as importantly, when the government do hand down their standardised pro forma, which they're going to do, we will be in such a better position, having established our own DCP.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councillor McCann, Councillor Leslie, sorry.
I'll vote for the motion, but I would ask that if the administration could, in the future, put as an attachment the repealed policies 7.1 and 7.3, for example. In this case, I went looking for them just to see what they were. I might have liked them. I assume that they're now irrelevant. But it would have been good to actually see them.
Get on board, Councillor, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Thompson.
Councillor Goodsall, have you spoken?
No.
Oh, Councillor, sorry, Councillor McAndrew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mayor, look, I have a comment and then I have a question. And it's been touched on by Councillor Ring that the Lithgow Development Control Plan is not a set and forget document. It's a dynamic plan that we kept under regular review. I think that's appropriate. The second dot point on page 30 talks about the Chapter 7, Section 7.3 Industrial Uses, the draft Marangaroo Development Control Plan. What does that mean? Does it still stand out there on its own, or what? Do I just get a layman's view of an explanation of that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What it refers to is that there has been a draft DCP prepared for Marangaroo. It will need, in due course, to be brought into the body of this DCP. But there's some further work that needs to be done, but particularly some further consultation that will need to be done in the community.
That consultation will be out with people that live around there, or yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Look, I note that the floodplain risk management study hasn't been finalised. I have a question for the administration. Can the impact on the individual residents be brought back to the council before its inclusion on the DCP? I just would like the impact to be completely visible to potential affected landholders. So is that a possibility?
I think the key to that is the first body of work, which is the floodplain risk management plan, which will have to come to council. And then what follows on from then for inclusion in the DCP will also have to come to council. So a twofold, yeah.
Yes, so that's a yes. Thank you.
Any other questions? Just before I ask Councillor Ring for his right to reply, I've just got a couple of questions myself to Mr. Muir. The DCP for the Pottery Estate, where are we up to with that?
My understanding is a draft has been lodged with an invitation for council staff to have a look at it. In speaking to the staff last week, we were going to seek to encourage them to actually lodge the DCP and start the process, the ball rolling.
Thank you. And just another question, I may sound half silly asking this question, but in the development control plan, will that stop a 9-storey building, say, like going into Martini Parade? Will this cover that type of thing or not?
It'll help.
Thank you.
But as Councillor Ring tells us, the DCP is not in itself a document that is legislation, but by the consistent application of it, by having controls in which developers can look at and have an understanding what the council considers to be acceptable in the local government area, having a set of controls that the staff can assess it against, I think it will help tremendously.
Marine.
Yeah, just to follow on what Mr. Muir was saying, on page 29 of the report, it provides 5 principles which give weight to this document, particularly if it goes to court. Without it, you haven't got a leg to stand on. With it, we do have a chance of winning those cases when people want to put a 9-storey building in an appropriate location. Previously, we had no guidelines. They could do what they wanted. This at least is a step in the right direction for our community to avoid overdevelopment in the wrong areas. Thank you.
Those in favour? Carried, unanimous. Thank you.
Mayor, happy to move the next item.
I'll second that.
Rural planning matters, moved Councillor McAndrew, seconded Councillor Statham.
Before the seconder, though, I'd like to add 5 extra points, Mayor, to the report. Five extra points to the report. It's currently got 1 to 4.
Yep.
But if you go to the page, and I'll explain the reasons why, page 33 at the top, you'll see 5 dot points.
Yep.
And I'll explain why I believe they should be form part of the recommendation. At the conclusion at page 32, bottom of page 32, the proposed provisions of the New South Wales Government are supportable, but whether they go far enough to take advantage of the endowments of the Lithgow local government area is debatable. But more importantly, Mayor, however, given competing community views and potential land use conflicts, any decision to open up the rural areas of the Lithgow LGA to a greater range of land uses should be made with the benefit of the following. I believe the following should be picked up formally in the recommendation. Now, what those 5 dot points talk about: a rural and rural residential strategy, including the DPIE important agricultural lands report and maps, updated Lithgow destination management plan, and the 3rd dot point, the most important one, completion of an extensive community and stakeholder consultation and engagement program. And 4, the final version of the New South Wales Government agritourism and small-scale agriculture development amendments. And the last one, directions from the Lithgow Evolving Economy project. I support the thrust of the document, but I honestly believe, for the reason I've just outlined, and I've been in council for some time now, I've been well aware of the land use conflicts in relation to changes. I think having those 5 dot points, which has been put in the conclusion, I think that gives us a better opportunity to make sure that we go out and dot all our I's and cross all our T's in relation to community and stakeholder consultation and engagement.
Somebody like to the first dot point.
I'll accept that, Mayor Thompson.
Thank you.
Mayor, I just think it strengthens it and covers us and gives us an opportunity to engage with everyone.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Councillor McAndrew, of Mr. Muir.
Yes, look, I certainly no objection. Just need to be careful, for example, that we're not doubling up on any of the recommendations. So we might just have a quick look.
Look, Mayor, I saw point 1 and I thought it did double up with 4 in the recommendation, but I'm not sure it does. I'm not so sure that the first dot point, I stand to be corrected if it's covered in 4, and as Councillor Ring has said, the agricultural lands, if it's covered in 1 of the dot points, I haven't got a problem with that, but I've read 4 and I've read the first dot point and I wasn't sure they were exactly the same.
That's the point I just asked Mr. Muir to
I think that the dot point at the top of the page probably is covered both in, I suppose, recommendations 3 and 4, would be my opinion. Let me look at the other ones. I won't be a moment. Yes, that's probably covered too, but certainly dot point 2, dot point 3, yes, absolutely. And of course the last dot point, absolutely as well.
Well, look, Councillor McAndrew wants the 5 points. So
doubling up though, Mayor, and are covered in the recommendation. Like I said, I wasn't sure about 4 and the first dot point. I'm not sure they were exactly the same.
There's probably two ways, if council wanted to, they could do it. They could probably take those ones that probably are a double up out and just stick with dot point 2, dot point 3 and dot point 5 as additional. Or there could be, for example, a lead-in. You could add those 5 extra points as part of the resolution, but perhaps have a lead-in paragraph to say the following, be particularly. I'm trying to think of some words.
That sounds good to me. The following be particularly
included but not limited to, that sort of phrase.
Yeah.
Or include a particular considerations in moving forward.
I'm just wanting to cover council for further land use conflict. I've been around long enough to know that when these changes occur, then we have those issues. That's the best way, Mayor.
Recently, the New South Wales Government have developed a new draft planning proposals, which will have the effect of increasing the agritourism across our rural lands, particularly in Lithgow, Glen Alice, Capertee, Canimbla, and all those small valleys that are requesting these sort of things, even if it is on a small scale. Yes, I do own a farming property. No, I will not ever be diversifying my property.
Councillor Statham, just if I could just interrupt you for a moment. You did declare an interest in this item.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't know whether you should be seconding the motion, that's all.
I needn't have even declared it. I've got no intention of doing anything with my farm, subdivision, nothing whatsoever.
Yeah, but you did declare it. That's all I'm saying. Just to cover you, Councillor Statham, you have declared an interest in it. So I think that in the best interest, most probably somebody else should second the matter. You're quite welcome to speak on the matter, but I don't think you should second it. Okay.
Happy to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
I think one of the most important points that Councillor McAndrew has pointed out in the top part of those 5 extra points is the completion and extensive community and stakeholder consultation engagement with the program. We need the ratepayers and we need the stakeholders to be involved and have a say. It's about everybody working together and making this a really good, transparent report.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Now, Councillor Statham, if you wish to speak on the matter.
Well, a lot of people that have been coming to me, some of them have large land ownings and some of them have small. But I think it's a great way for opportunities for landowners to invest, develop and diversify. Greenhouses, mushroom growing, flowers, proteas, native plants for sale, market gardens, farm gate meats, homemade condiments, small concerts and festivals. Farmers are starting to diversify. They're not sure in which direction to go. I think this will be an amazing thing for semi-retired farmers that are wanting to subdivide their places but keep smaller acreages to have an interest. I think for people that live out of the area, that have acreages in the area, small acreages, it's going to be a way for them to earn a little bit more money legally and expand their knowledge and ways to grow their bottom line, but also to assist in agritourism in our wonderful region.
Councillor Goodsall.
Yeah, I think this is a good news story. Nothing but a good news story. I think it'll open up areas of our local government area to a greater range of land uses. Supporting our rural business farming communities.
Thanks, Councillor Goodsall. Any other commentary, councillors?
Yeah, Mayor Thompson. At the briefing, it was made clear by Sherilyn that the policies being developed by the government will be targeted to primary producers through the taxation system. So it won't be for hobby farmers. You'll have to be a primary producer paying tax,
That's right.
registered with the tax office. That I think is good. It gives us clarity as a council. It provides legitimate primary producers with an opportunity to diversify. I think this is a step in the right direction by the government. Thank you.
No, nothing further, Mayor.
Thanks, Darryl. We move to Local Roads Congress.
Sorry, again, Mr Mayor, if you could say who voted for it, against it.
Oh, sorry. Those in favour? Carried unanimous.
So
Thank you.
I'll abstain from voting then. Thank you.
You can't just abstain. You have to leave the chamber.
All right, well, I'm
Abstain.
happy to vote then.
Thank you. Once again, we move to 10.3.1, Local Roads Congress.
Happy to second.
Who moved it? Councillor Ring. Thank you, Councillor Ring. Seconded, Councillor Coleman. Councillor Ring.
There's too many on.
Thank you. Look, I think it's a very good report. I've got one question for Mr Edgecombe, if I could, Mayor Thompson, for you. With respect to the administrative burden reducing process efficiency on page 35, I would have assumed that council could have done an open tender for suppliers and have set rates, and that in the event of an emergency, they could go immediately to a selective tender without advertising. I could do it when I was in government, so I just don't know that why we can't do it in council. Is that not an option?
I would probably need to take that on notice and advise after having reviewed the relevant legislation.
No, that's fine. It's just something that would make life easier moving forward in emergencies.
You finished speaking, Councillor Ring?
Yes, Mayor Thompson.
Councillor Coleman?
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Yes, great report, Mr Edgecombe. Really worth reading. You can congratulate it on. Councillor Ring might have asked my question. I was going to ask the question about, in regards to emergency and natural disaster events, what flexibility does the Local Government Act provide the General Manager in relation to expenditure? I'm guessing you asked the same thing, Councillor Ring. Was that where you were heading, or?
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, so that was, I was wondering where, so would you be able to take, so you're going to take that on notice, that's fine. The other question I have is in regards to the recommendation. If we are talking about procurement requirements and, you know, in relation to expenditure, I note that we're writing to the federal member, you know, Andrew G and Paul Toole, so forth and so forth. So should we also be writing to Shelley Hancock, the local government minister, as well? If we're talking about expenditure, I think that should be included because it is regards to the Local Government Act. Is that advisable, Mr Edgecombe? Oh, sorry, through you, Mayor, I apologise. Through you, Mayor, through to Mr Edgecombe?
There is no harm, through you, Mayor Thompson, there is no harm in casting the net as wide as you like.
That's what I thought.
However, I did selectively choose our local members as they would resonate well with the difficult position that Lithgow was put in as a result of the bushfire crisis and the costs incurred as a result. I felt that they would feel personally for the difficulty that we faced during that time.
But there's no harm in widening the net, do you think?
No.
Okay. I mean, I've seconded it. I can't amend it. Councillor Ring, would you consider?
Yeah, I'm happy for that.
So can we include that? That we also, yeah, point 4, that we correspond with Shelley Hancock, local government minister, please.
Okay, any other commentary, councillors? Councillor Ring?
No.
I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Renaming of Upper Turon Road.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Moved Councillor McAndrew, second Councillor Goodsall.
Yeah, Mayor, pretty succinct report. That's clear to me that Turin Gates Road is the preferred name, and in these matters, it's always appropriate to take on board local advice, knowledge, and history. Out of the submissions, 8 of them were for the Turin Gates Road, and I support the recommendation in both parts. Just a question on, so we have to inquirer from Midwest Regional and Bathurst Regional, because they've got some area around the road. Okay, that's self-explanatory. Okay, Mayor, I support the recommendation. I think it's pretty clear, pretty straightforward.
Yep. Any other commentary, councillors? Councillor Leslie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. AUM. I looked it up as an acronym. Does anyone here tell me what it is? I think if we're using acronyms, it would be useful to actually put it in the first time. It actually stands for Addressing User Manual. So it's not something one would pick straight off, but there you go.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's that many abbreviations now that you don't know whether you're coming to go on some of them. Yes, at least they should be in part of the report, and then you can refer back to find out exactly what it means. I agree.
Excuse me.
Councillor Statham.
Yes, I originally brought this up through the Dark Corner Palmazurki Bushfire Brigade, but when you have 29 lots currently off Upper Turon Road, and these people have shown expressions of interest, and 11 of them have come back. We have to listen to the people, and even though I believe it's a critical thing with bushfires, you can see here, as Councillor McAndrew and other councillors have stated, that the road that seems to be the most popular by far is the Upper Turon Gates Road. Turon Gates Road. So I think we have to listen to the people, because it's going to be very confusing. I think it's still very confusing. I think it's quite an in-depth report, but still quite confusing. And I think that the Sunny Corner Bushfire Brigade and the Dark Corner Brigades are going to be disappointed. But we have to listen to the people. At this stage, there is not enough evidence to prove what the people lobbied me for is the correct thing to do.
Nothing further, Mayor.
Okay, then, councillors, I shall put that. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Partial road closing and purchase of Bathurst
I'll
Road.
move that way. Thank
Happy
you.
to second.
Move Councillor Statham, second to Councillor Ring. Councillor Statham. Councillor Ring.
Look, basically, we're just completing something we resolved to do some time ago.
Exactly.
Legislative framework is now in place to allow it to happen. No problems.
Is there any other commentary, councillors? No, I shall put that then. Those in favour? Thank you.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Move Councillor Goodsall, second Councillor Ring. Councillor Goodsall.
Yeah, I had to get some clarification off our wastewater director about this report. I was a little bit confused about the $250,000 and what impact it was having. But that's been all cleared up now. What did concern me was that we've been paying $200,000 a year to have our treatment plant sludged or whatever over the last, since, I don't know, 2012, which is an incredible amount of money that we need to recoup, and looking like we might recoup that in the next 3 or 5 years or something. But yeah, obviously we need to move some things around, and it makes complete sense to me now, so I'm happy to move it.
Look, I just think it's good to get the cost of this project down to a manageable amount, particularly for the sewage works, down to $610,000 or $670,000 from an original estimate of $3 million. I think that's bloody brilliant.
No. I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried. Unanimous. Financial reserve balances, working capital.
Happy to move.
Move Councillor McAndrew.
Happy to second.
Second to Councillor Ring. Councillor McAndrew.
Mayor, in just supporting it, I just want to make a couple of comments. Council already resolved to establish a working capital reserve, and I note on page 51 that Upon approval from council, a loan would be sourced for 4 million. The term of the loan would be 4 years. It's been explained to me it's a bridging loan. However, just a question that I have, Mayor, I take it if this is adopted tonight, it'll form part, that certainly the $4 million loan will form part of the operational plan out for comment and submissions.
I'll just get the General Manager to comment on that. Did you get the question, General Manager?
I did, Mr. Mayor. No, the operating plan has already been adopted, and this is a decision tonight for council to take out an additional $4 million loan, just to smooth out the cash flow. That's only there as a reserve and will only be tapped into by way of a cash flow. So the operating plan for this year has been made.
How do we impart this decision to the residents and ratepayers? It's a big decision in my view.
Mayor Thompson.
Just one moment, Councillor Ring. Did you get that question from Councillor McAndrew?
Mr. Mayor, like with the last item, the council has a prerogative to tailor or fine-tune or finesse the operating plan in the budget as it goes on throughout the year. And that's what it's doing here. Of course, the business paper is on the public record and always discoverable and available. So this decision's been taken. I need to emphasise this isn't a loan that we're looking to draw down on as a matter of course. It will only be there as a backstop if we need to smooth out cash flow. If we have particular periods of high cash outflows, this will allow us to smooth those out, cater for those without dipping into the internally restricted reserves.
Mayor Thompson, I think with all respect to the General Manager, he's missing a couple of points, which I think Councillor McAndrew may still be confused, as some others may. From the Finance Committee meeting, the money that we're borrowing is partially because we've got a lot of grant work this year, significant amount of grant work in the millions of dollars. I know the bridge work down on the Glen Davis Road's about 5.2, so there's maybe on $10-12 million in grants. Those grants we have to pay in advance before we recoup. My understanding is that this loan will allow us to make those payments. The loan will be repaid as soon as we recoup, and we won't have the problems we had in the last 12 months of going back into our cash reserves because we had no money to pay. I think that's really where we're heading with this. If either you, Mayor Thompson, General Manager, or Ross Gurney could actually clarify.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, that aligns with the comments I made to the council.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm not opposed to what it's being used for. I support what it's being used for. I'm just concerned that it needs to be clearly, as my understanding, it needs to be clearly out there exactly what we're doing. It's not a small amount of money. But if the General Manager is comfortable in relation to what he's just imparted to us, then so be it.
Thank you. Councillor Ring?
Yeah, look, I just like to follow on from what I was saying. The loan is just to help us get through the next couple of years. We'll draw on it, we'll repay it as soon as we get money back. Very low risk, I think, in terms of stabilising our cash flow, because as we move forward, works are going to be done in relation to the cash flow. So if road works are funded from recurrent and we're going through a period where there's low cash flow, the road works will be put back to a period where we've got cash flows. Basically when we're getting large amounts of rates in. Rather than going, oh, we've got nothing, we've got to do it. Particularly with the capital works, we will draw down on the loan, we'll pay off the builders or the tradesmen. As soon as we get the money back from the government, we pay that back on the loan. So it's pretty much like a line of credit. It's a line of credit. So we'll draw on it, we'll put it back in, we'll draw on it, we'll put it back in. I think it's good to help us stabilise our cash flow moving forward and getting our house in order.
Yeah, the commentary, Councillor Goodsall.
I get what Councillor McAndrew is saying. I am not satisfied with not getting this out to the community. As soon as residents get wind that we're borrowing $4 million, like There'll be questions all over the place. Fix this, fix that, exactly what you're going to use it for. I think there has to be something really specific and short to I don't know, be on the front foot. So we've got something out there first before possibly the community come back at us. There's some pretty nasty people out there on social media. And I'd like to see it, in fact, written before it went out.
Yeah, all it is virtually what Councillor Ring is saying, though. It's a line of credit to stop us from continuously going into our internal reserves and then waiting for the money to come back in and replace it in and return into our internal reserves. So it's virtually a bridging loan, knowing full well that you've got your house sold and you've borrowed off the bank to borrow another business, and as soon as your house is sold, you're back to the bank and your bridging loan's finished.
I understand that clearly, but I'm not sure the community would. I just think that we should, if we're borrowing $4 million, they need to know why.
Well, that's what it's for. Councillor Smith.
Look, I understand what the General Manager said, and I can hear what all the councillors are saying. I know we need the bridging loan, but in the meantime, we have a land bank, and I've brought this up a numerous amount of times. We have land out next to the Wang basketball stadium that would bring us in anywhere between $2 to $3 million. Can't we put it on the market to bolster our reserves in the same time we're going for this bridging loan? I've asked time and time again. The General Manager said we're going to get to this stage. Well, I hope we get to this stage before we get out of council. We need to. It's a great parcel of land. It could bring great cash to our council. I know we can move money wherever we want to. I don't want council sitting here saying we can't do this and we can't do that when we know doing the right channels we can. If we could get 2 or 3 million for that block of land at Wang, it's 2 or 3 million we don't have to borrow.
Councillor Smith. Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Mayor Thompson. Just leading off where Councillor Smith said in regards to selling off a block of land, my question in regard to that, is it actually economically feasible in the current climate to even think about selling off a block of land? I mean, financially, a lot of people are doing it hard. I mean, and Greater Sydney is currently in a lockdown and will be, I'd say, for longer than they expect to. If we put it on the market, would it sit there forever and a day? I mean, who's got the money to buy it? My question.
Yeah, you could get it valued or put it out there, but whether it sells or not, irrespective of that, that's the selling of the block of land's not in this report.
It was just a question leading off Councillor Smith, that's all.
Mr Mayor, can I?
Yes. Yes, Mayor Thompson. I, like the other councillors, feel that the backlash we will get from the community, they're reading regularly that the council possibly having some issues with finances. You know, when our own finances are down, you can go and borrow money as long as you've got the assets or the income coming in, and I see what you're doing, but I also see that selling something that we have, like a block of land, is a good idea. We're keeping things transparent. I think that the $4 million is not a huge amount of money on the big scale of things, but it's a lot of money. How do we know how soon we can pay that back? And I believe that the community will find it quite an aggressive way of trying to balance the books. I really think we need to think seriously about this.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to add again that, and I want to give some counsel to the elected members, that this is a responsible move. This council has eroded its working capital and it does not have a sufficient working capital fund. That's where we're at, and we've been very honest with that. We've got internal reserves that we have some flexibility, but they've been established for a particular purpose. And in the absence of a working capital, we've been going to those internally restricted reserves. This is a very mature, responsible, low-cost way. We're moving into a massive budget this year, as Councillor Ring acknowledged, with a lot of capital projects, and this is a practical and financially prudent way to smooth out that cash flow. We have cycles where there are high periods of inflow and high periods of outflow. and we don't have the sufficient reserves at the moment to account for all of those. We're looking to phase them. This loan doesn't sit on its own. We've got a clear path of where we're going. We've got a 10-year financial plan, and we've got a range of cost-cutting measures and other financial prudent measures. But I strongly recommend that this is a responsible, low impact and easily explainable financial step. I remind you also, of course, all of our borrowings, all of our financial position is audited and again publicly reported.
Mayor Thompson, following on what some of the council said. Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you. I was just going to ask, if we added, if Councillor McAndrew would be happy if we added a third point, that the administration prepare a media release on the loan.
Very
to the
good.
Community.
Yeah, certainly. Well, very happy to include that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm on the record as being probably the only councillor here that actually thinks borrowing money is probably a good idea, especially with interest rates as they are at, record low levels, 1,000-year low record levels. That, however, is not the issue here. That's not what I would be borrowing money to do. I was wanting to borrow money to actually build roads, build infrastructure, to actually do things and you pay for it because the people who get the infrastructure are the current people, and the people who pay for it are the future residents. And of course, with interest rates at a very low level, the cost is not significant. In fact, you could well make up the costs by the fact that you don't have to repair your suspension on your cars and your new tyres on over the potholes, etc. To give a rather facetious response there, but there are ways to do it. This particular one, though, as it's been pointed out quite clearly, is a line of credit. Now, I understand that, and I accept the necessity to do this, and I won't be voting against this motion. But I just wanted to put it on the record that a $4 million loan for a line of credit is not what I think is needed for the town, where we need to get infrastructure done now. We need to get it built, and if we can get it done via grants, that's terrific. And if we use this to pay back, to do the work and then have the grants pay back the loan, well, that's understandable, and it has my limited support. But it isn't what I've been talking about over the past while, and if there is to go out some media release on it, I hope that, whilst I'm not expecting my personal position to be made clear, I'm hoping that it is clearly understood that it's work that is to do the work that the grants will in the future come to the council to actually end up paying back the loans.
Councillor Leslie. Councillor McAndrew, right? Reply.
Yeah, very, very briefly, let me be very clear. I support the proposal. I support what it's going to be used for. I simply wanted to be clear that it was transparent and known, and the third dot point put forward by Councillor Ring satisfies my concerns.
Got that, councillors. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Statham is against.
Happy to move.
We have Councillor Ring.
Happy to second.
Who's second? Who's second? Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Ring.
Look, it's a straightforward report. It's basically a statutory requirement. There's nothing really to discuss.
Councillor Goodsall. Is there any commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Proposed dual naming of Fish and Macquarie Rivers.
Happy to move.
Councillor Ring.
Happy to second.
Who second? Councillor Goodsall.
Wait for you to go.
Eh? Councillor Ring.
Sorry, Mayor Thompson, it's a straightforward report. I concur with the recommendations of the administration. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I've got a question. So something, a renaming, an alternate naming has been proposed by Lithgow Indigenous organisations. So who were they? How many? Was it all of them? Was it some of them? We haven't been good in communicating with all our Indigenous communities in the past. If I could just ask that question, please.
Mr. McGrath, can you answer that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We haven't fully consulted, and that's why that recommendation, Mr. Mayor, indicates that we want to consult more widely. We have contacted 2 groups and sought their views, but we would like to consult further, and we would like the Geographic Names Board to allow a wider consultation and a period of time for that to occur.
Thanks, Mr. McGrath. Are you happy with that, Councillor Goodsall?
No, it doesn't actually say that. It says at the top of the page 55, in our case, the alternative name of Billagugaya or Balagaya has been proposed by Lithgow Indigenous organisations. It is our view that all representative Indigenous organisations in Lithgow, Oberon and Bathurst Council should be afforded the chance to consider the matter further. How is that going to happen then, when that's stated in the recommendation that this name has been proposed and now it's going to the Geographical Names Board?
It hasn't been, sorry, Mr. Mayor, it hasn't been proposed formally. That was just an informal contact with those 2 groups, and they have just simply suggested those 2 names, the names meaning river fish, but we realise we need to consult much more widely.
Can I ask
which community?
You, Mr. Mayor, could I ask, please, which Indigenous?
Sorry, I missed that question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, it's Councillor Statham. Mr. McGrath, could I please ask who the 2 Indigenous groups were to come up with this name? And without any doubt whatsoever, they have to get the Bathurst people together. It is the Macquarie River, and he was a governor, so it's going to be a very difficult decision to know what to do here. We need much more information on this, please.
Mr. Mayor, the report is saying that we wish to put out consultation for the naming of the Fish River only, because the Fish River is a river that is located within our LGA and not the Macquarie River. So,
Could I?
Sorry.
Councillor McAndrew.
Yeah, look, that's the way I understood it. There's been a number of organisations who've got together and said, we'll rename the Macquarie and the Fish. Well, that's fine for them to rename the Macquarie, but the Fish River sits in our local government area. And I think if you look at recommendation number 3, advise the Geographical Names Board that Council requests that the current dual naming not include the Fish River, and a proposal for that river's name be re-exhibited with an alternative dual name accepted by, I say that's local representative Indigenous organisations, I would expect.
That's correct.
Mr. McGrath.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
3 councillors?
Yep. Sorry,
Oh, sorry, Councillor
can I talk again? So it says at the top of the page, Mingyan have been contacted, and they're the only people that have given an opinion from our area. And Barony, yeah, okay. There's more. There's more.
That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor. We recognise that there is a lot more of an Indigenous voice in Lithgow, and that's what we're proposing to seek input.
Thank you. Councillor Ring, right, a reply?
Look, I just think it's good that the council's going to go out and communicate with the rest of the Indigenous community. I think it's about time. It's well overdue. We'll just see what happens.
I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried, unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, before you go to the next item, I had a COVID shot this morning, and I'm having some sort of weird reactions here. I wonder if I could. I ask your permission to leave the meeting. Thank you.
Do you want to go and help him, Joe? Joe? Just walk him out.
Having a couple of minutes reserved, but we don't have to go off air. Just waiting for Councillor Smith to return.
And it's appropriate for the council to be escorted and helped in case something happens.
I wonder if one of the officers might just check if he needs a lift home.
Councillor Smith's gone down with him, Mr. General Manager.
But that's
Okay.
a good proposal, Mayor. Someone to drive him home.
Thank you.
to provide council with the best develop local recovery action plan that we can possibly have.
Thank you. Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried, unanimous. Policy and government's chain of responsibility.
I'll move that way, Mayor Thompson.
Moved to Councillor Statham, second to Councillor Coleman.
Happy to second.
Councillor Statham.
Oh, Mayor Thompson, I think it's a comprehensive report, but I also think the detail within the report is great for councillors to know, and I'm assuming that the majority of work staff will learn something from, you know, the new way that this is proposed. I think we've all learned something by just reading it and taking it in, and I think it's an excellent move.
Councillor Coleman.
Yes, great report. My understanding, if through you, Mayor, if Mr. Edgecombe could respond, this is also about ensuring the safety and well-being of our staff as well. Is that correct?
It is.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is primarily about our staff, but I also feel we've got a civic responsibility for everybody who comes into our workshop and assists council to undertake its daily duties, and this works to protect their safety also.
Safety is paramount for our staff. It's so important. That's why I asked that question.
Thank you. Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Or do I reply, Councillor Statham? Yeah.
Fine, thank you, Mayor Thompson.
I shall put that then. Those in favour? Thank you. Committee, where are we up to?
Yeah. I'd like to move 11.1 if I could, Mayor Thompson, with an amendment.
This is in
Economic Development
Economic
Committee.
Development. You'd like to move with a change, did you say?
Yes, I would, Mayor Thompson. I'll put the change up first, if I may, and see if someone wants to second it. The first recommendation, I'd like to delete the second half of the sentence and accept the committee's recommendation on item 4.2. I'd like to delete that. I'd like to add a second point, that the administration prepare an alternate discussion paper assessing the option for branding Lithgow as the Seven Valleys.
Please repeat that, Councillor Ring.
Okay, Darryl's going to second it. I will repeat it. Okay, I read it as somebody might have it up, but recommendation 1 is that council note the minutes of the Economic Development Committee held on the 7th of June 2021. And point 2, that administration prepare alternate discussion paper assessing the option for branding Lithgow as the Seven Valleys. Now that it's been, well, Darryl seconded it. Sorry. Seven Valleys. I'll explain why. Well, I'll explain it in a moment. That's, if I could, please talk. The recommendation as it was written didn't, in my opinion, reflect the recommendation that was voted at the Economic Development Committee meeting. That recommendation was that the Economic Development Committee endorse the Lithgow Destination draft marketing strategy. I voted against it at that meeting. I don't like it. I don't think it's a great document. It's not inventive. It's not grabbing the essence of our community. And it's up to the council, the full council in this chamber, when we meet, to decide these things, not committees, regardless if it's a council committee or not. The Seven Valleys refer to Megalong, Kanimbla, Artley, Walgan, Kapiti. It's getting pushed out there now considerably. And when I was speaking to Darryl and some other people, you don't go to the to Singleton, you go to the Hunter Valley. I think the Seven Valleys describes our whole community. In the marketing strategy that we're given, Lithgow, black and white, is the branding for our community. That is really, really boring. Seven Valleys provides us an opportunity to sell this community in a way that we have never sold it before. This is not my idea. This idea is out there in the community. I take no credit for it, but I think it's an idea that we should see written on. The committee that the Economic Development Manager works with for tourism marketing, we never see the minutes for. Not a council committee.
What's that noise?
I would like to see an alternate paper come back, look into the pros and cons of the Seven Valleys. I believe it is much more marketable than Lithgow. Lithgow's got a unique heritage. However, we have much more than the coal history, the mining. It's a significant part of it, don't get me wrong. But we have all this great experiences out there in the valleys. This allows us to encompass the entire community. Everyone gets annoyed when you talk about Lithgow, and most of us talk about Lithgow.
And I asked, does that mean it's specifically only tourism? Because we're calling it Seven Valleys. You know, the meeting dealt with Lithgow Economy Scorecard, the update from the Lithgow Evolving Economy Project. And I know the destination draft marketing strategy is not just about a valley or tourism. So I'm just, you know, I like the idea and the theme, but what does it mean? All those other issues, the marketing issues about other things other than tourism, where does that leave it? Simply calling it the Seven Valleys. That's my uneasiness with it. Well, that's what I think it does.
Yeah. Could I
wasn't at the meeting, and that's what I'm concerned about.
Could I get some response from Mr. Muir? That's your department.
If I understand the question, it's whether what is the strategy relates to is tourism related or wider. Is that? Yeah. The draft marketing strategy is a destination strategy, so it is largely tourism based. Yes.
Tourism.
I speak, please, Mayor Thompson. There is a group of people out there that has definitely put out the Seven Valleys as something of interest to our local government area. I've done a lot of research on that, and it's becoming more and more popular with the groups around. So I think that listening to the people again, it seems a great big change to even consider. But if it means tourists, unlike Councillor McAndrew, I think we've got to build our diversification around tourism. And if this means that we can get people here to visit some of these valleys and put money back into our lots of areas in the local government area, yes, Portland miss out and places like Meadow Flat, Hampton and Wallerawang miss out, but still they've got to go through these places to get to the Canimbla Valley, Glen Alice, Megalong, Lithgow, Kabity Valley and Walcombe Valley. I think it's something that we really should look at strategically long term very soon.
Yeah, I have a question.
I think we should just endorse the Economic Development Committee minutes as it stands at the moment. But I believe at the next Economic Development meeting, really push the Seven Valleys. I know for a fact, young Brad Clough from out of Wang, he's been pushing this barra for a long time. It's a great idea and a great initiative. I'm like Councillor McAndrew. Let's endorse these minutes today, but push the Seven Valleys barra.
Yes, Mayor Thompson, I've just got a question. Is this a document, is a work in progress document? I mean, it's not set in stone, is it? I mean, the Lithgow Destination Marketing Strategy, we're talking about 2021, 2024. I mean, this is an agile document, my understanding. It can constantly come back, constantly be worked at. Is that right?
Well, the answer is yes. What's being sought is for council to endorse the strategy, which has been worked on by the staff and also the marketing cooperative. But as with all these things, they can be altered. There has to be some flexibility, yes.
Indeed, Mr. Mayor and councillors, with the new council, one of the first tasks will be to acquaint them with the legacy policies and strategies that they acquire from the current council. So I'm certain.
And they can be changed then, is that right, Mayor Thompson? Sorry, thank you, General Manager.
Mayor, could I just get a bit more clarification?
I'd just like the General Manager to finish what he was saying. Thanks, Mr. Butler.
Keep going, Mr. General Manager.
I was merely Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was merely responding to Councillor Coleman's comment and Andrew Muir's response. And, you know, we will soon move into elections and inherit a new council. And so these things need to be living and breathing, and they need to be owned by the council. So that new council will be briefed on this strategy as well. But I guess the decision before the council tonight, if I must say, is a simple one. Do you wish to endorse the strategy based on the briefings you've received at this point in time or not?
Mayor, another clarification, please. I understood the Lithgow destination marketing strategy was also about, correct me if I'm wrong, trying to encourage people to come and live here as well, and to open businesses here, to operate here. Have I got that right?
Well, that's the way that I understood it, Mr.
So that's more than just tourism.
What we are talking about in this relation is certainly tourism based. It's something that's been worked on by the regional marketing cooperative, which is the tourism entity. Yes.
So I'm wrong in my understanding of the Lithgow destination marketing strategy.
It's what the strategy seeks to do is set forward a framework, if you like, to base our future campaigns, destination marketing campaigns on. And it is largely tourism based. Yes.
All right. In that case, and if it is that base, then yeah, I probably have to admit the Seven Valleys sounds better.
So where are we at?
Reply.
Going to put up the recommendation on the board of what Councillor Ring has put forward.
Can I talk, Mr Mayor?
You can.
Can you turn on your mic?
Is that as you said it, Councillor Ring?
It was me.
Can Ali share that with me?
Yes, Mayor Thompson,
Yeah,
that's correct.
Okay.
I support the Seven Valleys 100%. I think it's a great marketing strategy. I'm not going to go against what's happened so far and the work that the parties have done in working really hard to get that destination marketing strategy up. I think we can add to it if we need to, but that small group of people have worked immensely hard, and I can't see what benefit we're going to get of changing it just tonight. I think there were a lot of councillors that weren't at that briefing session. Maybe we could have another one. Not sure. I don't think there was many here at all.
There was 4.
And 4 out of 9, we voted, and everybody stood up and said that they wanted every single councillor on that committee, and then we get 4, and we went with what we thought was right at the time, and I'm not going to go against what that working group and the staff have done so far. We can add to it.
Look,
Right, a reply, Mayor Thompson.
could I ask another question, Mayor? Look, is the intention of the recommendation to completely throw out the Lithgow destination marketing strategy, or is it about changing the name? That's what I don't understand.
I think the branding in this marketing strategy is not appropriate. It is not something that will work for this community. I think we need to look at the Seven Valleys. I don't think it's a major change in this document. I don't think it's going back. And look, if I'd use this as my closing statement, if I can, Mayor Thompson. Councillor Goodsall makes good points, but at the end of the day, we make the decisions. We're not here to just accept whatever working groups or committees put to us. It's the same as the staff. I've heard lots of complaints over the years about the planning staff and things. When the planning staff put up things for the Development Control Plan or LEP, we don't have to accept them. It's that simple. I don't think commercially branding Lithgow as Lithgow in black and white is creative, sells this community, and as I have not seen any minutes from this working group, I don't know what the discussion was. I don't know who the people on the committee are or how extensive their experience is in tourism or marketing. We spent $20,000 on a bike strategy for Hassan's Walls. We should have been spending $20,000 to $40,000 on a marketing strategy and getting professionals in. Seven Valleys is attractive. It sells. It is a concept we can get imagination behind, and that is what we need moving forward. Not just going with something bland because it's easy. We need imagination, change and innovation moving forward. That is critical. This provides us something fresh to look at, something fresh to work with. It's not a major cost. It's a very simple change. It doesn't have to change the whole context of the document, but we need to be fresh moving forward. We need to be innovative. Tourism will create employment in this community. It's going to be a long time before we see a lot of international travel. Eventually we'll get the lockdowns gone and we'll see more people coming out. So I think we need something that's going to grab the imagination of those people. We're competing against Mudgee. We're competing against the Hunter Valley. Lithgow, and I've said it in this chamber before, has had a bad rep in the broader community as being perceived as a dirty coal mining town. We know it's not, but that is how it has been perceived. Lithgow is that close to the Sydney market that we need something to grab them. Blue Mountains is a big tourism market, but it went through a very bad stage there at one stage because of complacency when the Hunter Valley changed how they marketed themselves and the Hunter Valley became the go-to destination. Lithgow can become the go-to destination if we use imagination moving forward. And I think the Seven Valleys is the best way to go.
Mayor Thompson, just one quick mention here. I have no idea why we don't have a Lithgow Tourism Council committee. We had a very...
That was the right of reply, Councillor.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah. I'm going to put the motion as it is. Those in favour? Those against? I declare the motion carried. And Councillor, who was against? Statham, McKendra and Thompson. Righto, we move to 11.2, Community Development Committee.
Happy to move.
Moves Councillor Coleman. Second, Councillor Smith. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Look, this Community Development Committee works really, really hard. We have limited funds and we do the best we can with what we're given. We always come to a unanimous decision and we always follow policy and we're always about the budget and we always ensure that they meet criteria.
Very good. Councillors, who seconded that?
Me.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, it's a good report and it goes across a lot of different aspects within our local LGA. Just happy to say I'm happy with the report.
Okay, any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimous. Finance Committee minutes.
Move.
Happy to second.
Councillor McAndrew.
Pretty self-explanatory, Mayor. I don't need to speak to it.
Councillor Ring.
No, Mayor Thompson.
I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Youth Committee meeting minutes.
Happy to move.
Councillor Ring.
Happy to second.
Second, Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Ring.
No, Mayor Thompson. It's a fairly good report.
Councillor Goodsall. I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Talk minutes.
Happy to move.
Councillor Smith. Seconded, Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Smith.
I just have a question, and so I'm referring to 6.7 Cases Lane at Mount Lambie. Through Mr. Edgecombe, if that's all right with you, Mayor, this signage at Cases Lane at Mount Lambie, are these signs being put in or?
Not as yet.
Not as yet? And what's the time frame, Mr. Edgecombe, if you've got any rough idea?
With this resolution, these signs, a couple of $100 each. We would place the order nearly immediately, a couple of weeks for delivery, and then we would install them.
Councillor Goodwin?
Yeah,
No.
no.
Any commentary, councillors? No. Right to reply, Councillor Smith? Oh, you, Councillor Good, you got right. I shall put that then. Carried unanimous.
Happy to move. No, Mayor, it's pretty self-explanatory.
I have one, perhaps, Mayor. Maybe it's not business of great urgency, but I would like to raise it. The community responded quite rapidly in regards to the issue, in regards to Coles Express issue, and they lined up to be tested. Anyway, I was contacted yesterday saying, you know, they lined up to get tested. That's great. But I was told there's no testing on the weekends. Can we make inquiries in regards to that? I think it's important.
There is testing at weekends.
There is?
Yeah.
There is? Okay, so I got told there's no testing, so you can confirm there is testing on
Not
weekends?
for the same hours, but there's limited hours, but there is testing 10 o'clock till 2, I think it is.
So is it, so could I get that? Sorry, what did you say, 10 o'clock?
10 till 2,
10 to 2 on weekends, both Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you.
Mayor Thompson, I've got an item. It relates to the postponement of the election. The government is still saying that it'll be a shorter term. I honestly believe that we should be writing to the local member and to the local government minister requesting that it is a full term of council. It's a major imposition on councils to have to go a shorter term and then pay out another 160 to 180,000 for our council. It's the same for all councils.
Under the circumstances, Councillor Ring, I think that the Department of Local Government and especially what's her name, Linda Scott, is taking this up as we speak, and she's already. I mean, I do take it that it is a matter of urgency, but I also know that it's already been taken up.
That's fine, Mayor. I just wanted to get it on the record. I think we should make a statement about it. That's all.
Well, Mayor, I wasn't going to, but Linda Scott is also raising the matter that the election should have gone through in September. You know, I cannot understand why regional rural areas have to continue to put off their election because of COVID hotspots in our main city areas. And I know Linda Scott's been very, very strong on that. Just not the matter of how long it should or shouldn't be, but we've already gone 12 months further than what we were due to be gone. Now it's another 3 months on top of that. So I know Linda's been very strong in saying that the election should go ahead in September, but I looks like that's not going to change now. But it's just a schmozzle. At the moment, we're not even sure whether it will be held in December now. The way it's gone, it's an absolute schmozzle.
It is a schmozzle.
It's not about what the future. I understand that the closer we get, the shorter the term is. But geez, we've got to come to the terms with having this election.
Yeah.
I would concur with Councillor McAndrew. I mean, at the end of the day, the New South Wales local government minister will have to bite the bullet. The election will need to go ahead in December. Otherwise, we'll be here forever and a day.
Certainly will be.
I disagree. Well, they're all saying something, so I may as well. It's only days, months, weeks until someone comes into our community, and then it's rife. And I don't want to be in a position where there's local government elections in September when they don't have to be. Put them off till December. Make sure everything's, as safe as what it possibly could be. And if it's still around December, put it off again.
There's just different views out there at the moment, but we're stuck with what we've got with, and that's the legislation. And the legislation says we're having elections in December. So.
And watching the local news tonight, the Mayor of Orange, the Mayor of Dubbo, they're happy. I know they're different councils, but they're happy to go with the elections in December.
Okay.
Happy to.
Happy to second. Any chance just of a 2-minute break while we're moving into closed council?
How long? What? A couple of minutes? 5 minutes? 5 minutes break. Thank you. accept the tender submission from H2H Plumbing Proprietary Limited for the design and construction of the Cullumbullen Low Pressure Sewerage Scheme for $1,668,758.30, GST included. And 2, authorise the General Manager to execute and contract on behalf of the Lithgow Council under delegated authority. With that, I declare this meeting closed. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, directors. And Mr General Manager.